This is another calling spot. I was coming up one morning, pristine fresh snow. I was the first vehicle up. About an inch of snow on top of old snow. Saw nothing all the way to here. I'm probably 3,200 feet here. And saw some tracks, lion tracks, come up out of this, up the cut bank onto the road, followed the road down, and then cut up and went up the wall. So I drove back around. It's the end of a ridge here. I drove back around about a half a mile and determined that it hadn't come out the other side and I just missed it. And no, it had still stayed up on top, so I came back. I parked right here where I'm parked. And I followed it up the wall. We'll do the same thing. I'll do a stand, and then I'll tell you what happened. This is the ridge top where I shot the cougar. This is uphill. I was facing downhill. I know better now, so I'm going to do a stand facing uphill, then I'll tell you what happened. It's not as thick, but it's still very thick. Okay, this is not the same butt print I was sitting in, but it was right here. It was right here somewhere. I came up that side, right above the rig like I showed you, and the tracks veered off to the left. And I kept going straight up. And I got just about to the crown of the ridge. It's a big flat-topped ridge. Well, it's flat for here. It's flat this way, and then it goes steep up. But just got to the crown, and the tracks went down. And I was like, well, there's not too much down. There's about a quarter mile, and it hits the road. So I'm going to keep going across the ridge. And I came across the top of the ridge about halfway, and the tracks went up. I thought, oh, this thing's been hunting here all night. And there was a bunch of deer tracks that had gone off the other side. And I got over to the far side of the ridge, the north face of the ridge, and the tracks went down again. And it got thick, really thick, like a bulldozer going through. If I was going to try to go through there, it was just too loud. And so I came back to the center of the ridge, and the last tracks I saw went down, so I set up facing down the ridge like this, like I am now. I always call with my gun on my shoulder like this. It's always up. And I started the sequence, and it's going to actually take me longer to tell you the story than it happened. It happened so fast. You won't believe how fast it happened. But I start with a cottontail. I do 30 seconds. One sequence of cottontail. 30 seconds. Switch it to the whistles. The first whistle, up the hill behind me, I hear, and I thought it was a raven way up on the top of the peak up there or something. Next whistle. Next whistle. I was like, that's a cat. It's 200 yards up the ridge right behind me. And so I look back, and sure enough, I see it. It's moving through. There's snow on the ground, so I can see it a little better than I can today. And it's just flash here, flash here. It's coming fast. And it's going to walk right next to me. I mean, 10 feet away. And I'm sitting here pointing down the ridge and thinking, can I sit here still enough while this cat walks right past my toes till I can just swing and shoot right like that? And I thought, there's no way. I'm going to be shaking. I'm already breathing hard. My heart's pounding. This cat's coming at me right behind me. And so I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? I'm looking back. Every once in a while it shows, but most of the time it's disappeared. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to wait till it goes behind a tree or behind a stump or behind a blowdown or something. And I'm going to flip over to weak hand. And so I'm looking back. I change my hands like this. And when it goes through a draw, I go like this. and it saw me. And it froze and it disappeared. I couldn't see it. I wasn't looking through my scope yet. I just flopped around. I'm left hand against the tree, and it was gone. I could not see anything. And it was right there, and then it was gone. And so I just tucked into my scope, and I looked left eye through the scope, and there's its face. 50 yards up there through that stuff. And it wasn't above that stuff, it was through that stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm busted. It saw me flip over, changed the weak hand against the tree, and it's about to bolt. It's about to turn and go. And so I just put the crosshairs right on its nose and shot. And it tumbled back and turned to the right and went uphill and was gone. I went up there and I found good blood. I started following it. I followed it about 50 yards, and I decided to just stop, just sit down. Took off all my gear, just sat down. And I sat down for a whole hour. I got up, got all my gear on, went back on the trail. A bobcat had actually come out and followed its trail. It must have smelled that it was bleeding or something. Followed its trail for a while, and then it broke off. I probably jumped the bobcat off the lion track. It turned downhill, kind of quartering back, and it actually crossed the road 200 yards from the truck, and it continued on down. I actually met a truck in the road, and I don't have cell phone service up here, and so I gave him my wife's phone number, and I said, call my wife when you get down and tell her I'm on a track. I don't know how long I'll be. I might be all day, I might be into the night, I don't know. He says, okay, and he's out standing in the road with me, and he's looking down the hill, and he says, wait, what is that? And I said, oh, that's it. And I pull up, and he said, looks like a German Shepherd. I said, no, that's the Cougar. I pull up, my scope's full of snow. I couldn't see anything, and it was gone. I got my scope cleared out, went back to the truck, took a bunch of gear off, because I thought I was going to be tracking hard. Went back to the track, went down, and right where we had jumped it, there was a bunch of blood in the snow. And so I figured, okay, it's not going to take too long. And I followed it 2 ridges. Actually, from the first ridge, I looked to the second ridge. You can see just through the treetops. Well, not tops, but through the middle of the tree, it's pretty open. You can see through this stuff here. Through the middle of the tree, it's pretty open. So if you're looking across from ridge to ridge, you can see some points. And I saw what looked like the right color. And I looked at it, and I looked at it through the scope even, and I could just see a piece of it. And I thought, oh, it's just a rotten tree or something. I followed the tracks through the draw and up right to that spot, and there it was, laying in the trail with its head down on the snow between its front feet. And I just leaned over. Against a tree I was standing next to, and boom, shot it through the lungs. It bounced up in the air 8 feet off the ground. Unbelievable. Just boing, just like it was made out of springs. Took off over the top and tumbled down the ridge. And then there was this just horrible growling like you've never heard before. Just I mean, the hair's all standing up all over my whole body. I wait 2-3 minutes until that stops. She did it 2 or 3 times, but I wait 2 or 3 minutes after that and go down there. I'm just freaked out, and there she is, and that was that. So, first kill. It's my first cougar kill. Set up completely wrong. Set up facing downhill. General rule, face uphill. Get further away from your call, face uphill. They like to come from above. It just makes them feel more comfortable. I talked about that a lot. Make them feel comfortable. Coming from above makes them feel more comfortable. If I'd done that, it would have been a slam dunk. I would have been able to pick and choose my shot opportunity. This situation, I got busted, and I had to take a shot in order to get the cat. It would have just crumpled, but I skipped off its cheek and went into its shoulder. And the bullet actually performed really well, and went all the way back and lodged in its hip and fragmented the whole way. But they're so hard to switch off. Cats are so hard to switch off. There was enough energy taken out of the bullet where it got a long ways, and it's just, you don't want to do that. So set up better than I did, but I got the tag on the cat, and this is another great spot because it's a lifetime memory here.